Okay, so once again, good day everyone. Our topic for today is about platform independent. No, now the software that can run on a variety of hardware platforms or software architectures. No, so platform independent software can be used in many different environments. So requiring less planning and translation across an enterprise. Let's say, for example, no, in Java programming language, uh, designed to run on multiple types of hardware and multiple operating systems. Because if Java platform independence becomes a reality, organizations with multiple types of computers will able to write a specialized applications once and have it used by virtually everyone. So rather than having to write distribution and maintain multiple version of the same program. So uh, actually, no, uh, a while ago, no, we have argued previously the architectural concept of abstract platform should have a prominent role in MDA development. So later on, I will give you some discussion about PIM and PSM, and maybe our presenter are ready to share related to the uh, platform independent
Yes,
design.
sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, sir. This chapter nga po, sir, describe the techniques for refinement of analysis models towards the platform-independent design. Tulad nga po ng sabi niyo, para nga po sa Java, magiging perfect po talaga yung program natin kung platform-independent po siya. And it's also described the platform-independent design structuring techniques such as design pattern and module specification. So, the design process concerned with constructing components and organizing their interaction in order to achieve the system required. It's involved the following. Una po, identify the subsystem and module which will be coherent and define the purpose of the function of the cohesion. Another thing is yung identifying po yung dependencies between modules and specifying their interface and responsibilities. Example po nito yung mga terms po natin na sites po din sa conference po. Ano po yung dependencies nila from one another po. So to complete the design, each requirement, use case and constraint must be carried out and maintained by some class or module or by combination of classes and module. For example po, binigay po kasing example dito sa textbook po na kinuhanan ko is yung Scrabble system, which is we can make moves and use primarily implemented in the player module, which will manage with the GUI interacting and constructing moves. The validation of the score calculation of the moves will be responsibility of the moves module. Kasi nga po, di ba po dun sa Scrabble po natin, sa Scrabble, meron po tayong mga words na ginagawa po natin doon. Each letters po is may corresponding points. Pero at the same time po doon, meron din po yung mga blocks na corresponding bonus like double letters and double words, etc. So some constraints will be satisfied by design of an individual modules of or class, for example, of the post condition. Siyempre, nakalagay po dito yung volumes of square po na magkaano po sa kanila kung yung mga letters po is independent po siya or true or false po. So yun nga po, boolean square can be directly implemented as conditional statement. Other constraints such as property that will be occupied squares in board must be reachable from each other. Ito nga po yung nakalagay, yun nga po yung sinabi ko po sa inyo na meron pong corresponding points yung bawat letters natin dun sa words po ng Scrabble. And at the same time din po, yung mga adjacent po na word na masasagasaan din po nung sa Scrabble system natin is makukuha rin po yung points para po din po dun. At magiging independent word din po sila. Dapat required po na independent word po sila. It's involved more complex decisions, and interaction of possibly several modules that can be used in interactive approach to maintain the constraint. To ensure its true initial, we must inform that the player or more modules probably that all letters placed in the first move must be connected in the line. Yun nga po, pag yung mga words po na ginagawa natin, dapat po connected po siya from one letter to another letter po. On subsequent moves, is it is it is sufficient to ensure that number one, at least one of the new letter is adjacent to the existing occupied square, and all the new letters are placed in a connected line. Due to the recursive definition of adjacent closure, this will be established for the updated board. Check 1 and 2 probably can be implemented in the move of modules if the stated board before the moves is provided to these modules. So yun nga po. Doon po sa sinabi nun, yun, common ano lang din naman po sa Scrabble system na yung bawat nga po, yung bawat letter po na adjacent po, dapat doon po siya naka-connect yung isa pa pong word, which is yung isang word naman po is dire-diretso po yung mga letters to form a new word. Tapos po, pas po tayo dun sa sinasabi ni Sir na model transformation. A number of useful model transformation on UML specification can be used to improve the structure of a model or to progress a model towards the implementable forms. Nga po, in terms of MDA or multiple discriminant analysis nga po, there are some product information management to product information management din po, or from product information management to process system management, mapping towards the model of transformation. We must also ensure that the preserves of all constraints that we will place on the system as mandatory requirement. So in that case nga po, dapat po yung bawat nga po na product information, yung si product information management nga po is ano po siya, correlation po siya to another product information management. So a transformation should not impose additional constraint without a good justification, as this will be restricts the implementation choices. So ito po yung yung mga some simple example of using useful transformation. Una po, yung removal of many association. Yan po, nakalagay po dyan, the transformation replace many association is particularly used as a step towards to implement of class diagram in a relation database. Another thing is the replace inheritance by the association. This transformation is useful to move situation of multiple inheritance PIM. Or another one is the introduction of qualified association. This transformation replace an identified attribute attention. For example, the sample T in the class by class B is qualified as association. Wait lang, sir. Papakita ko lang po sa inyo yung mga diagram po na example po natin dyan. Apa. Mabagal. Ayun nga po, or ano po, habang hinihintay po natin na mag-open yung mga diagram po ng ni-ready ko po. Ayan yan, yan na pala. Ayun nga po, for example po ng removal of many association. Ito po yung example niya, sir. Mga ma'am, sir, makikita nyo po, removing of many association. Kumbaga, meron po siyang existing association dito. Ito pong BR na to. Tapos po, ngayon po, inano po natin siya. In-expand, parang ganun po. Ito naman po yung example, ang ano po natin, yung figure po na example ng inheritance of by association. Katulad po, doon sa una, halos kabalik, hindi naman siya halos kabaliktaran, pero parang binalik lang din po natin siya. And this one is the introduce of qualified association. Kasi po yung class po ni B, meron pong na-identify na qualified association na pwede po natin ma-interconnected with it. Let's go. Yun nga po. This one. Introducing the superclass po. This transformation can be applied whenever two abstract have common features. The new superclass is usually abstract because only A and B instance existed in the original model. Ayan po yung ano niya, yung figure po ng example ng para po sa ano po. Superclass po natin. Ayan po, meron pong iba. Si class A po, meron po siyang mga data po. At the same time po ay class B. Target splitting of the state charts transition. This transformation defines the behavior of a state chart by splitting a transition into two or more disjoint pieces. The introduction of a qualified association was used to enable the board square to be repaired to by their coordinates in the Scrabble system. Ayan po yun, sir. A and B is structure of software which are used to solve particular design problem. They are mainly independent in programming language, at least within the general category of the object-oriented language. So, can be used to be for platform independent design. The concept of the design pattern originate by a building architecture and the writing of Christopher Alexander in his book, The Timeless Way of Building. And the pattern language, town buildings, construction subsequently, software research, so to apply the concept to the program construction and discover design pattern. So this is the template method pattern. This behavioral pattern is used to organize or refactor a design whenever there is a method in which, as essential, the algorithm in two or more classes. But when a small variation, the pattern defines a superclass for these classes and place the generic definition of M in this class, meaning that the subclasses only need to define the parts of M in which they are deferred. So, structure of template method pattern. Class involved in this pattern are the following. Una po, sir, yung generic class po natin. This defines the template method which consists of skeleton algorithm calling one or more hook method. It's also defined hook methods that subclass can override. Another thing is the concrete classes. Implement the hook method. Ito po yung sa generic class natin tsaka sa concrete class natin. Si concrete plants po kasi is masyado po siyang independent na nire-relay po kay generic class yung mga hook method na ginamit po ni concrete classes. The iterator pattern. The purpose of this behavioral pattern is to support access to elements of an aggregate data with structure such as tree or array. Sequentially, it is applicable whenever we are, number one, require multiple or transversal algorithm over an aggregates. Number two, required an uniform transversal interface over different aggregates. Or when aggregate classes and transversal algorithms must be very independently. The general structure of this pattern an iterator object acts like an cursor or pointer into a structure indicating current location with this structure and providing operation to move this cursor forward or backward in the structure. Thus, normal in an iterator class has operations such as end, has next to the text if the iteration has reached an end, advancement to the step forward to the next element, and current to the obtain the current element. Structure of iterator pattern. Aggregate. The class defined in general composite data structure such as the list of or tree. Concrete aggregate. Specific subclass defining a particular data structure such as link, list, or binary search tree. Iterator. Interface for general operation such as access the first element in the collection stepping through the collection. Concrete iterator. Iterator subclass specific to the particular data structure. The concrete iterator method of the data structures return to concrete iterator instance for the structure. The consequence of the pattern are the increase in flexibility, become the aggregates and the transversal mechanism are independent. It is possible to have a multiple iterator acting in the same aggregates objects simultaneously possible with different transversal algorithm. Example, using both POET and pre-order transfers. So ito po yung structure operation na figure po. Pinapakita po dito yon. From client po, magbibigay po siya ng iterator and aggregates po. Yung concrete aggregates po natin will be giving yung concrete iterator po natin dun kay aggregates din po. Iterator as generator. The permutation iterator. The concept of iterator is much more general than simply iterating through the elements of a fixed pre-existing data structure. One very important use of iterator is a generator of all elements of some collection of objects. Definition: a generator for a collection S is bijective, functional, G, 1M is to S, where N is the size of S. Observer pattern. This behavioral pattern is intended for situation where there are multiple views or presentation of set of data such as alternative graphical bars, yung mga example nga nun, yung mga pie chart, bar chart. In general, it defines meaning dependency between objects so that when one object to the data change state, it also depends in the views are notified and updated themselves automatically. It is applicable whenever there are two entities when represented in a software, other its dependents. This pattern can be abstractly expressed. The class invests the structure. We have the following rule. One is the subject, abstract, super base of all classes containing observed data, provides method attack and detach to add and remove the observes of an object, and notify to form all observes that significant state change has occurred in the observable, observable, and they may be need to be updated the presentation of it. Siyempre, yung subject po natin, yun po mismo yung laman kung ano yung topic na ano po natin. General topic na gagamitin po natin. Another one is the concrete subject. Specific observable date method of this class will be modified. State may be called notified on completion. Ito naman sa concrete subject naman po, ito naman po yung mga topics po or mga data po natin na talagang identified po sila. Sila po yung pinaka data na kailangan po natin sa isang system po na gagawin natin. Next is the observer. Abstract superclass observer of the subject. It declares an update methods whose purpose is to adjust the observer's presentation and any subject that state. Next is the concrete observer. Class defining as a specific views such as a bar chart. So ito po yung example ng mga figure nila, abstract observer pattern and design structure of a observer pattern. Nasa ano naman po yan, nasa Google Classroom naman po, kaya mas maano po natin. Next is the builder pattern. The creational pattern allows a client object to obtain complex sub-objects by declarative specification of their types and content. The detail of constructions are managed in separately classes with the different builders subclass for each variant of an object to be constructed. Design structure of the building pattern. In a Scrabble system, an example where this pattern is useful is the construction of the board and the letter in the bag. An object of Unions class invokes methods on an instances in the English Scrabble builder class, a subclass of a general Scrabble builder class to construct the board with the correct location of the ordinary and premium square and to initialize the bag with the correct number of each kind of the letter. So ito po yung binigay na example na figure din po. Builder pattern for Scrabble system. This makes extension with other language. Variant of Scrabble quite simple, and a new subclass of Scrabble builder would need to be defined, but no other part of the system would be changed. So ito po yun. Scrabble po, yung game po mismo, then Scrabble builder po, and yung pinasok po yung English Scrabble builder. The singleton pattern. The creational pattern is used to define classes which must have only single instance. For example, mathematically utility classes and database connection too. Another more. It's replaced the use of a global non-variable. Singleton is used when there must be a unique instance of a class and it must be accessible to client from well-known access point. When the role of assistant should be extensible by subclassing and the client should be able to use an extended instance set without modifying their codes. So, yun po. Sample po ng structure of Sillington pattern. The involved of classes are Sillington defines as an operation instance that lets clients access its Unix instances. Instances is a class level operation. Sillington may also be responsible for creating its own unique instances. The benefits of this pattern are that it the following: provides control access to Sillington instance. This can only be accessed via an instance method. Reduce name space of the program, a class instead of the global variable. Permit subclassing of Sillington. And next is it can be adapted easily to give a fixed number of instance. The strategy pattern. This behavioral pattern, which define the common interface for alternative version of algorithm, enabling a client to easily select this different version by varying the object the operation is involved on. The element of the patterns are client as a class where the operation by an abstract class or interface. Abstract strategy. Class that provide common interface for the different implementation of the operation. Concrete strategy. A class that implements a particular version of the operation. The benefits of the pattern are that it simplifies the codes of the system by replacing alternative version of an algorithm into different classes, and that it allow dynamic selection for this version by a client. So ito nga po yung figure din po na nagpapakita kay from client to abstract strategy. System and subsystem design. This pattern can be used in the Scrabble system to structure the alternative computer moves in strategies and operation. Can be defined to use one of the several alternative strategies. Find the highest adoring word that will crosses a new premium square and reaches the covered region of the board using the letter from the rack. Number 2, find the highest scoring words which will be formed adding letters from the rack alongside existing word. And number 3, look for extension or existing words by suffix 5 or prefix u on, many more if available in the rack. Each separate strategy could be defined as separate classes. So yun nga po, ito po yung sa architectural Scrabble system. Ito, detail design. This pattern can be used in, ay na po, nasabi ko na to. So from idle nga po, selecting the player ready. Ayan. So ito yung pinapakita dun sa Scrabble move. For the example, yung word na beat, yun po yung unang nilagay. Tapos meron na po siyang a crossword na tit. So in order po, tapos may at na rin po. So para po hanapin po natin yung highest point po na makukuha natin dun sa word, which is yung pitch po. May kita po natin na makukuha po niya yung word na T, at C. Kaya po ito talaga yung mas magandang pattern na gagamitin po dito sa example ng figure na ito. Constructing a design architecture. The general principle for grouping elements of a system into subsystem and modules is the same groups should have more in common with each other than they do with the elements in a different groups. More in common that they depend on each other functionality, that they are often involved in the same use of cases, that they have similar or closely related functionalities, that they share common data structure or subordinate entities, more on. Once approach, One's approach is to start with the initial design, class diagram, and try to form this joint group of class with the following properties. One is subordinates. If class 4 has directly association to class and class L not an end of any other associate, she probably subordinates class A, and A and B can be put the same way. Sa subordinates nga po, yun po yung mga nasa ano po natin, napasok po sila dun sa class na specific topic po or specific data na kailangan po natin para po dun sa sa gagawin po nating mga designs. Logically coherence, more constraints relate class and audition with the group that is between different group. Functional coherence, classes are grouped to reduce the number of modules affected each use cases. User interface design. Platform independent GUI design can be carried by specifying the appearance, layout, and behavior of an interface in the term of generic UI. Concept as frame, button, text field, label, table, which has similar interpretation in UI technologies such as and Java Swing. For example, we can do a diagram intended the layout of Scrabble game interface using only such a platform independent facilities. The mapping of GUI concept into and Java is given to the table of 6 MAE. Can be used representing the structure of GUI with each kind of GUI components represented by particular tags, and the nesting structure of the GUI expressed by the nesting hierarchy of XML tags. An example of this is the XUI Toolkit 35, which defines the platform independent GUI description language using XML, defining generic GUI elements in XML tags. So ito po yung Scrabble module from class diagram. Yung po yung example ng figure na pinakita po. This will be Scrabble GUI. May kita po yung scores po ni player 1, player 2, player 3. And may kita po yung nakalagay po yung 7 letters po talaga dyan. Simple Scrabble game po yung pinakita niyang example. Okay. So, data respiratory design. This form of design identifies what data needs to store persistently and what structure and organization of this data will be used. Various technology can be used for an actual implementation of this data respiratory. The resulting class diagram can be directly translated into a database table. Number 1, each transform persistent class C is represented as the table with the column of each attribute and with primary keys keys in identify attributes or producing a compound key or a group of attribute stereotype as identity rather. Each persistent explicit man-one association from A to B in represented as a foreign key from the table of A to the table for B. For each persistent implicate association will be represented by an SQL predicate with which is used to be calculate the entity instances in the association by a select query. So ito po yung mga diagram ng pinakita rin po dun sa textbook ko na pinakuhanan ko. Okay. Scrabble data SEMA. So exception of handling. Programming language and environments differs widely in how they deal with the situation erroneous execution such as an attempt to divide by zero. So it is difficult to provide platform independent specification of a functionality in such as cases. The role of precondition of an operation to express what condition are necessary and commencement of an execution of the operation for the execute without error. The post-condition only expresses that the effect of an execution of the operation in cases where the precondition was true at its start. So neither constraint describe the behavior of the operation erroneous cases. Transforming PIM to a PSM. In the section, we will consider how map a platform-independent design into platform-specific design. Both platform-independent design and platform-specific PSMS can usually be expressed in UML notation. So the production of PSM specific to a particular programming language and environment, such as Java, can be expressed in terms of transformation on UML models. General issues in PIM and PMS transformation. Data types of PIM may be unbound integers, for example, an infinite precision real numbers, which are not available in an executable programming language. Either the developer must be ensured that the hands-on data are enforced so that the PIM and PSM behave in the same way, or executable extended data types must be used. For instance, bigeinteger in Java allows integer values much larger than the standard into type. The evaluation of Boolean expression in OCL is also slightly different on a programming language. A and B false if either A or B is false. Even there is agreement that undefined that A or B is true if 4 or B is true. If their other agreement is in constant in Java, evaluation is left to right so that undefined in either cases, for example, evaluation results in an infinite loop. The whole expression is undefined by using precondition to ensure expression in the operations definition are always defined. We can remove such as discrepancies. And methods is in semantic particularly the rules of concerning overloading and overriding, which may vary significant between language. Language-specific rule and further, such as the lack of multiple inheritance in Java, contrasts to C++ or built-in get, set, and let method form in a Visual Basic C. In contrast to Java, C++ permits overloading operators such as this. Merchandise is not a Java. Definition of template classes only supported in Java for a version of 1.5. So, yun po yung sir, research ko po about platform independent design. Thank
Okay,
you.
so, okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, so a while ago, as I mentioned, no, we are argued previously that the architectural concept of abstract platform should have a prominent role in MDA development. So, an abstract platform defines platform characteristics that are considered at the particular level of platform independence and may also serves as a starting point for platform specific realization. Now, our presenter discussed or mentioned about design language concept and characteristic of abstract platform are interrelated. No? So therefore, careful selection of a design language is indispensable for the beneficial exploration of the PIM and PSM separation and the definition of abstract platforms. No? Open sum platforms characteristics are assumed implicitly in platform independent design. And as what our presenter mentioned, no? This may lead to PIMs that cannot be reused for different platforms, or it may lead to PIMs that cannot be directly compared and integrated. So it may also lead to transformation that cannot be reused. No? Because platform characteristics assumed in a platform independent design are better understood and controlled by designers if the characteristic of the abstract platform are explicitly represented in the abstract platform definitions. And to add on, no, explicitly identifying the abstract platform bring attention to balancing between two conflicting goals, between platform independent modeling and platform specific realization. So in this discussion actually, no, we understand now on how to support the concept of abstract platform in standard UML through both the implicit and the explicit abstract platform definition approaches. In the implicit definition approach, the semantic variation points of the UML should either be resolved or should be considered irrelevant for deriving intended abstract platform characteristics. Again, based on what we have discussed last meeting, UML profiles can be useful in the approach to specialize design concept and manage and package abstract platforms. So in the explicit definition approach of the UML 2.0, no, composite structure are useful both for defining abstract platforms. No, UML 2.0 composite structure are useful both for defining abstract platform from external and from an internal perspective. So composite structures have been a useful addition to UML 2.0. Nevertheless, we have to identify some limitation with respect to the level of abstraction that can be obtained in the representation of abstract platform with composite structures. So UML 2.0 still lacks some notion of behavior conformance in order to relate behaviors defined at a high level of abstraction and the refined realization of these behaviors. Consequently, we cannot formally assess the correctness of abstract platform realization. So as what we present, no, as your classmate presented last meeting about the UML, and at the same time, a while ago, as comparing by our presenter, that in which a number of abstract platform can be combined, both in the implicit and the explicit abstract platform definition approaches. So we just simply intend, no, to investigate further modularization criteria for abstract platform definition, aiming at obtaining a reference architecture for abstract platforms definition module. So therefore, a designer should be able to compose an abstract platform from abstract platform definition modules. And this modularization would ideally be preserved and transformation specification and ultimately at platform specific level. So I think that's it for this topic.